Well, we're used to saying sunny Southern California. However, tonight it is a very nice, cool Southern California. We are here at the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California for the ninth round and the start of the second half of season 5 for the United Sim Racing, Association, the ASPCA 240 here at the Auto Club Speedway. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Alongside me here tonight, now as always, is my partner Jonathan Leach. John, we have one heck of a night in store here in Fontana.
We sure do. However, we have one heck of a season in store here with for the fans with the USRA league. Every race is a show. There's been what I think there's only one repeat winner. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the field, so every single one of these guys are fast. They always put on a show. Any one of these guys are capable of winning. I mean, it's just like the real deal. You know how we talk about in football, any team can win any given week. That's how I feel about the USRA league.
Yeah, and it certainly has proven to be that way, at least over the course of this season, as we've got 2 minutes and 20 seconds left here in this practice session. As it stands right now, we have 24 drivers who are set to take part in this race tonight. And the man who won last week, currently not on track, that's Troy Torgerson. He put on a tour de force last week at Las Vegas.
He sure did. Everybody seemed to be chasing him. I remember Ryan Jones put up a good fight, but he just didn't quite have the long run speed that he needed to catch Torgerson. I'm trying to remember our third place finisher real quick.
That would have been.
Bechtel, was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was Randy Bechtel, who we also figured was really strong on the long run over there as well. But everybody was chasing Torgerson. And I do see him here. Troy Torgerson, number 98
He's
machine.
not on track, but he is here, yes.
Oh, okay. My mistake. I misunderstood what you meant.
No, you're all right. And I'll tell you what, this is one of my more favorite tracks that we go to on the calendar. Not because this is the only track that I've ever actually attended a NASCAR race for back in 2015, but it's such a wide racetrack. It gives these drivers a lot of room to race around each other. We saw at Vegas last week only one caution. I wouldn't be surprised if we got very similar results here today.
You know, and that could be true. However, I mean, my experience with Auto Club, or excuse me, the California Oval, I guess it is the Auto Club Speedway.
Yep, it is.
But I haven't raced here at night, so I don't know what to expect. I can tell you when it's hot and the track is hot, it's really loose coming off turn 4 especially, and that normally would lead to some more cautions. Being a night race, track is cooler. I think you could be right. We might see one, maybe 2 cautions. What do you want to take? Over, under, 2 or more, 2 or less? What do you think?
You know what? I'd be willing to pick the under, and you see on screen right now 72-degree ambient temperature, only 74-degree track temperature, which means not only is it cold on the racetrack, which will provide a lot more grip, it's ambient cold as well. So these engines are going to be providing a lot more horsepower as we head over into the qualifying session here. Randy Bechtel actually topping the time charts here in practice.
He sure is. And yeah, with those temperatures, I expect this to be a pretty quick race, I guess. But by that, I mean you're probably not going to see any single car spins. Any cautions will be more than one vehicle. And again, we got to remember the talent in this series. So you could be right. I'm going to play the opposite of you and assume 3 cautions as qualifying's underway.
And qualifying is underway. Eric Holly, Jeff Winter, Justin Winters, Alex Huffman on track right now. Here is Alex Huffman. Huffman had a very good show last week at Las Vegas. It's just, unfortunately for him, he couldn't make the tires last on the long runs the way some other drivers were able to. Ended up getting out of Vegas with a top 5. But he had the pace. If I remember right, he was the pole sitter last week. He had the pace to get a lot more.
He sure did. And I mean, we don't want to compare apples to oranges between Las Vegas and here at California. But on the long run, like medium pace, you know, the typical iRacing run, I guess you would say. He was very fast, but on the long run, he just wasn't quite there for Troy Torgerson, who won the race, Ryan Jones P2, and Randy Bechtel came home P3. I refresh my memory. I don't remember who came home P4. Do you? I hate to put you on the spot, but I don't remember.
I don't either, if I'm honest. I think it might have been Huffman and then Jeff Pogo finishing in 5th.
Yes, that is what it was. Yeah, because Pogo's second or first streak ended, and he ended up finishing 5th. Yep, that is absolutely right. I remember that. That was an outstanding race. It was a lot of fun to watch. And we're going to get another fun show here as well. And we're bringing it to you guys tonight.
Yep, we absolutely are. There is the man who currently sits atop the timing pylon right now, Jeff Chandler at a 40.54. Currently has the purple first and second half of the lap, so quickest overall. Justin Winters in second, Huffman into third. Jeff Pogo puts himself into 4th position. Holly in 5th, Jeff Winter in 6th. Those are the guys that have set times thus far, as we're already halfway through this qualifying session. Huffman goes to the top and then is immediately replaced by Chandler, who puts down a 40.40. So a very good time from Jeff Chandler. A lot of other guys on track right now. Here's Ryan Jones getting on track right now, and Randy Bechtel driving a little bit of a different scheme from what we're used to seeing him in that number 29. Still Dryden, but we got some blue on it this time, as Bechtel, who is incredibly close to the points lead now after his 3rd place finish. Pienta had the bad run at the end of the final stint, came home in 7th position last week, so he took a big chunk, did Bechtel, out of that points lead.
He sure did. That was one of the talking points as the laps were winding down, was him closing the gap and having the run that he needed over the competition to make the points gain and things like that. And, you went a little further, but I want to talk about his paint job before. We got Troy Torgerson on screen now. That sky blue, gorgeous paint job. Looks great.
It absolutely is.
Painter.
It certainly is. As here is Troy Torgerson, last week's winner. Completely ran over the field in that Navy car last week. He's going to try to do it again here, and he appears to be off the pace here, so he's only going to get... Oh, so that was his second lap. This is his final lap. As there is our new pole sitter right now, Evan Pienta, with a 43.3.
Wow.
Going back to that Twisted Tea number 16, worked for him at Daytona. He's going to try to see if he can work for him again here. As Ryan Jones, with only 45 seconds left, about to set his second time.
He's going to have plenty of time. His first time was a 40.75. Let's see what he can pull out of the hat this lap. Or tailpipe, whatever you want to say. Race car puns.
Comes down, cross the line, will cross in 5th, so he moves up from 11th to 5th. Thomas Ogle is done with his lap times. Here's Robert Dudley in the number 49. First time put him the slowest of all drivers that have taken times right now, currently 18th. And he will not get to finish this lap. However, Chris Brown will finish his first lap. Brown goes up to 12th as he puts his one time in before the end of the qualifying session. So with that now complete, we will take a look at the starting grid here for tonight's ASPCA 240 at Auto Club Speedway. Evan Pienta and Randy Bechtel, 1 and 2 in the points. We'll start 1 and 2 on the field here for tonight's race. Jeff Chandler and Troy Torgerson make up row 2. Ryan Jones and Alex Huffman in row 3. Stephen Holmes, Jeff Pogo make up row number 4. Daniel Dill, who had a great qualifying run last week at Las Vegas as well, starts in 9th. Justin Winters rounds out row number 10 with him. Thomas Ogle and Chris Brown make up row number 6, John.
Yep, and Eric Hawley and Jamie Leach are going to make up row number 7. Starting 15th and 16th. Row 8 is going to be Roy Leemans and Jeff Winter. Tommy Cannon, Matthew McMeekin, 17th and 18th respectively. Robert Dudley and Chase Berry will be starting 19th and 20th. Coming down towards the end of the field, Zach Calloway will be starting 21st. Jared Hagerdorn 22nd. 23rd belongs to Larry Pauling, and 24 starting 24 will be Mike Mock for the evening. I don't think the bottom four made a time. Is that
the last five from Chase Barry on down did not set a qualifying time. So we are about to get going here at the Auto Club Speedway. As just a gorgeous night here, as it usually is at Fontana. Just waiting for the final cars to grid up here. I believe it's Justin Winters and Zach Calloway are the only two drivers that have yet to grid up here this evening. As there pops in Winters. Calloway not quite there yet. But this is going to be one of the final times that we see Auto Club Speedway in the current layout that it is in. The rumors are that it certainly will not be a part of NASCAR's Cup Series schedule next year. Rumors are that this is going to be turning into a half-mile oval. So this is one of the last times we're going to see Auto Club the way it sits.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And this isn't NASCAR, obviously. This is iRacing, and this is the ESPN network with the USRA League. But we can talk some real-life racing real quick. What NASCAR is doing is they're trying to get back to grassroots-style racing. That's why you got Bristol. It's going to be a dirt track. That's why they're trying to change California and make it another short track style race. What's another good one? I'm trying to think. Adding some more road courses, which that's the new spectrum right there as we're going to the independent rear end vehicles, which won't be this upcoming season. It'll be the season after the 2021 season.
So a lot of changes are going to be upcoming. Evan Pienta and Randy Bechtel will be leading them down here, though, as we are about to begin the second half of Season 5 for the United Sim Racing Association. Pace car peels off. Evan Pienta has the button. He will take it. We are green flag racing here at the Auto Club Speedway.
We most definitely are. Looks like Evan Pienta is going to get a solid jump on the start here. He's got Jeff Chandler all over his back bumper. Randy Bechtel's leading the second lane into turn 1. Don't see anybody getting loose yet, so I'm going to assume the low temperatures are going to lead us into the racing that we were talking about during pre-race.
You can see how these guys are fanning out already down that back straightaway. We do have one camera that does give you a long look down the back, and that's certainly going to be a sight to behold as you see Randy Bechtel fighting with Ryan Jones in the number 91. Troy Torgerson is thereabouts as well. As there they come across the line for the first time, it is Evan Pienta out in front of lap 1 of 120 here this evening, and he has Jeff Chandler all over him.
He sure does, but I mean, it's still early. We're going to see what happens over the next course of the first 5 to 10 laps as tires start to wear out. We're going to see who is pushing real hard early. We're going to see who is kind of waiting and lurking in the back as they start to move forward. As we're watching Jeff Chandler make a pass for the lead on Evan Pienta. Slides right up in front of him. New leader, Jeff Chandler, coming to lap number 4, 3. I believe. 3, it is 3. Somehow I thought we went in hyperspeed and did a lap pass.
No problem. As those guys battling up at the front have allowed the rest of the group to catch back up to them, as Randy Bechtel now has Alex Huffman behind him. This is the 5 that are up here at the front for the race lead. So Chandler, Pienta, Bechtel, Huffman, and Jeff Pogo, who's already up 3 spots from where he started in that Monster Energy number 4. And one thing I am noticing, a lot of Fords, top 10 right now, currently seeing 6 Fords up in the top 10. The rest are Chevrolets. This could be a blue oval night.
Okay, well that being said, let me put you on the spot here. You taught me something I didn't know. Things seem relatively calm right now. So explain the difference between the manufacturers, because I never heard about this until you informed me a few weeks ago. So if you have time, please elaborate on that for the viewers.
We have nothing but time right now. There is a handling difference. The way iRacing had made these cars, there is a handling difference between the Chevy, the Toyota, and the Ford. Right now, there are only 2 Toyotas in this race. One of them is this man here, the 74 of Roy Lehman's, currently sitting down in the 13th position. The other one is Robert Dudley, who is in the back, the 49, passing right by this camera now. So only 2 Toyotas in the field tonight. The rest are either Chevys or Fords. The Chevrolet, if you've driven it in the sim, the back end does seem a little bit freer in the Chevrolet than it is in any other car. The Toyota does seem a little bit stiffer, and the Ford even stiffer than that. And then from there on, it comes down to engine power, and that's typically one of those places where the Fords tend to reign supreme, and this is an engine power track as Randy Bechtel takes the second position away from Evan Pienta, and Alex Huffman trying to follow through on that second position. So there is a difference, and there are tracks where the Chevys will reign supreme, where the Fords will reign supreme, and where the Toyotas will reign supreme. This early on appears to be a Ford track.
It sure does. Thank you for giving the overview for the fans. For anybody that may not know about that, it's something really interesting. Maybe you want to check it out. Believe it or not, I'm a Ford guy, and I drive a Chevy in iRacing. Don't ask me why I picked it, but now I'm kind of glued to it, and that's just kind of how it's going to be. But maybe I need to try the Ford out, because I don't really like a super loose rear end on a race car. So maybe I'll have to try something new sometime.
Yeah, no, and for me, that's kind of what it was. I bought the Toyota on a whim because I'm a Chevy guy, and that's all I wanted to drive. That's all I did drive was the Chevy, and I bought the Toyota on a whim, and I'm like, wow, this handles really, really different. It's a little bit stiffer, so on tracks where the setup is looser, like, say, here, coming off of Turn 4, as you had mentioned earlier on, like Las Vegas, where quarter exit in 2 is particularly treacherous, it does help to have a car that has a tighter base on it than what the Chevrolet has, and that's kind of how I got into cycling through the cars, as we see Huffman putting a really healthy amount of pressure on the back end of Evan Pienta. Pienta now really not been able to hold on to that race lead. He's gotten caught up and passed now by a couple of different drivers. This most recent one being Alex Huffman. You see them cross the line now, trying to get that third spot.
Yeah, he sure is. And I mean, we talked about Alex Huffman right before the start of the race, and we talked about how he's got really solid short run and middle run speed. And he's definitely showing that right now. And, and something else that I want to mention, Randy Bechtel, Alex Huffman, Jeff Pogo, Ryan Jones, Troy Turgeson. So 4 of the top 5 last week are hanging out in the top 7 this week. So, I mean, it's something to make note of as we're watching the number 29 machine of Randy Bechtel work on. Is that Randy Bechtel? No, that's 25 machine of Alex Huffman. Still working on Evan Pienta here, but Jeff Pogo in trail.
Pogo really giving that 25 a little bit of a shot going into turn 1. That will give Huffman the position. We are working on lap 10 of 120 here tonight. Zach Callaway did not make the start, so Callaway is a DNF at the moment. Unfortunately, it looks like Mike Mock is done as well. So we have 2 retirements, 22 drivers on track right now. Larry Poling being the last of the drivers that are running, as you're seeing this battle here for the third position between the 5 drivers that you see on screen right now. Jeff Pogo right in the middle of it. with Ryan Jones and Troy Torgerson, last week's winner, in there as well.
Absolutely. We know Jeff Pogo is trying to restart his cycle of or run of second place or better finishes, as he's sitting currently in a fifth place position. I mean, it really does seem like he's a fifth place or better car week in and week out, which is really incredible with this series and the talent here. Because, I mean, we know everybody in this league has lives outside of iRacing. So it just goes to kind of show the talent level that some of these drivers have. And Jeff Pogo's been doing excellent all season long.
Yeah, and speaking of working pitch strategy, that fell right into Ryan Jones's hands last week. The driver of the 91 came in short pit a couple times. Jones had started back towards the bottom of the top 10, ended up working his way up in the first segment, and then through short pitting found himself finishing in second last week. So a very good run as far as pitch strategy goes for the driver of the 91 last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked a little bit about it last week, and it's just kind of the style of the number 91 driver, Ryan Jones. He always does, like, he would rather duke it out on track when he's ahead of you. He doesn't want to chase you down. He would rather have to make you burn up your stuff and chase him down. And that's why he attempts to try to short pit by a lap, sometimes two, depending on the tracks.
See the difference in lines there as we ride on board with Ryan Jones. A lot lower on exit for the driver of the 91 as compared to the three drivers in front of him. As you see the 25 really washing up towards the outside of the racetrack there. As this is going to come down to a race where can you keep the tires on it? And as this run goes on, you are going to see drivers who've been pushing a little too hard start to fall to the back.
Yeah, most definitely. And something else that I want to talk about. I mean, so the racetrack is super, super wide, like you mentioned. But we failed to mention, and maybe you'll disagree with me, but I would just say you're wrong, but that's my opinion. When the laps tick down, or when the tires start getting old, you start putting laps on the tires, it starts becoming more of a one-line track as far as speed. You could try to dive underneath somebody on the high lane, but you normally just don't have the drive off that they do, and it actually starts becoming rather difficult to make passes, as we're seeing Ryan Jones still trying to get around Jeff Pogo here. I don't think you're going to see people passing underneath in another 15 laps. I think it's going to be somebody gets a bad entry, so they go around, or somebody manages to make a pass on the high side. And I think that holds true either at night here and during the day.
Now, typically you would see these drivers in a real-life scenario. These guys would really be hugging that outside line, typically through 3 and 4. 1 and 2 is kind of all spread out here, but the way iRacing has the handling model and the tire model and the wear model set up, it is really hard to try to actually make up ground on any line that is not the inside. Sure, you can get one heck of a run coming off of the corner if you keep it wound up on that outside lane, but it is very difficult with how a lot of these racetracks are set up.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, they added that that arrow push update, so you can get up on the wall and you can actually get a slight advantage. It's kind of like side drafting the wall. However, then you got to deal with network issues, and do you slam into the wall because of the network? Can you see it? You can see it, but you can't really feel that the wall's there. So, there's a lot of things that go into play as we see Ryan Jones trying to work his way into the fourth position. And maybe that's why he had a slightly different line. He was using maybe a little more of a conservative line, and it's starting to show for him as the laps go on.
You're seeing the battle here for the race lead as Jeff Chandler has Randy Bechtel bearing down on him. You saw over the last 5 laps that 29 has been quicker than the driver of the 33 in the race lead. Going back to that battle here for the 4th position, it has really heated up. Pogo not willing to stand by and let that 91 take over that 5th position. Troy Torgerson trying to stay in the mix as well in that number 98. And there goes Alex Huffman again on Evan Pienta, as this battle really getting close here, and this is all a battle for 3rd.
See, absolutely, and this is starting to show exactly what I was trying to talk about. They're getting side by side, and these cars like to slide up a little bit once you're kind of at the apex of turn 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So when you try to dive underneath, that outside car can get up next to you, and these guys have the respect to do that. You can't get that drive off, and it starts making passing really difficult, which is why later in this race, I think you can expect people trying to get everything they can on the restarts.
Absolutely. We have had a battle, have a change for the race lead, as there is the driver of the 29, Randy Bechtel, has gotten around Jeff Chandler. We will show you the pass for the race lead here. This is going into turn 1, last lap, and that's certainly one thing you can do here, John, is get that run coming out of turn 4, use it down the front straightaway, and make the pass going into turn 1. A little slingshot move there for the 29.
Yes, I'm glad that you touched on that. It's a long track. I believe it's right at like 2.01 miles or so.
Right around 2 miles, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not going to get too technical. So there's long straightaways. So getting that drive off, getting back on the throttle earlier will definitely pay off towards the end of the straightaway. However, if you get a bad entry because you're carrying too much speed, you basically kill your next 2 laps because you got to build up that momentum all over again.
See now one driver starting to get into the mix here at the back of this group that we've been seeing battle here for the last 15 or so laps. That is the driver of the 23, Thomas Ogle, who has been slowly working his way up to the back of this group, and he might have a very good tire situation. Hasn't been battling with much guys, hasn't been battling with many guys, pardon me. Just kind of riding on his own, and while these guys, we've seen the fights that these guys have been in, this might be a very good time for Thomas Ogle to start making some headway.
It very well could be, but I mean, again, next step, he can catch these guys all he wants. Getting around them's a different story. I think you're right on the tires, though, because he hasn't been battling. So we're going to see if his tires aren't quite as worn down as these guys once he catches them and starts trying to find a way around.
A lot of guys racing close to each other, but not many battles going on. We'll go back in the back of the field here a little bit more. This is for 19th and 20th. Jeff Winter in the 30 on the inside has the 2 of Jared Hagedorn to his outside, and Hagedorn will surrender the 19th position. Chase Barry right up ahead of these guys. Barry on the inside there. A little bit of a different look from what we've seen out of the number 11 these last couple of weeks. On the inside of Jamie Leach, trying to get Stephen Holmes as well. This is a battle for the 14th position between these 4 drivers.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Chase Berry for a second. We know he didn't qualify. Maybe he wasn't. He just disappeared there for a moment.
Yep,
maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't get a lot of practice due to outside of racing events, and he just needs a little warm-up time. So we'll keep an eye on him and see how the race progresses, because you're right, it's not normally where we see the number 11 machine of Chase Berry back in the 16th, 17th position. So we'll keep an eye on him.
And not too far ahead of them. You're seeing here 3 wide between Matt McMeekin, Roy Lehmans, and Daniel Dill. That was the group from the inside to the outside, as Dill in that pink and black number 81. Oh, pardon me, that was Chris Brown, I'm sorry, in that black and pink number 81. He's got a nice silver in there as well. Very, I would say, dirt or modified inspired number 1 there. Looking slick here tonight in that number 1.
It sure is, and I'm glad that you corrected yourself, and I'm going to call you out because I suck at this and you're great at this. Well, I only suck at being a color guy. I'm a really good lead. At least that's what my fans, that are like 4 of them, tell me. But yeah, that is an awesome paint scheme. And We can talk about all these drivers' paint schemes. They're great. They're under the lights. These guys are starting to learn how to put that metallic finish on these cars. Ryan Jones has got it figured out. Really colorful racing league. A lot of fun to watch these vehicles go around. I really wish I could just put a hand inside my monitor and touch these sleek finishes, but we're not quite there yet in technology.
Unfortunately, as Brown loses another position to the driver, the 8, Eric Holly, still has not given up on that position, however, as Brown to the inside of Holly in the 8. As Holly still trying to work that outside line to try to get that run off the corner. He might be able to get it going into 3 as he takes a peek to the inside of the number 1, and that's one of the fights you can get into constantly here. You get past going on entry, but on that outside, you keep the car wound up. You can get him back on exit.
Yeah, absolutely. However, it's all about one just had to check up because of Eric Holly being in the way. That's probably going to prevent him, at least in my opinion, from making a move coming into the corner here. Maybe the next turn. While they're sorting this out, I want to ask you to take your attention to the third place position, as Ryan Jones has now obtained 3rd, and Troy Turgeson is up to 4th. So they kind of got that situated. That earlier battle was kind of situated now.
Yep, and a lot of those guys, Evan Pienta has fallen back to the 7th position. Here's Alex Huffman, who was up in 3rd position for quite some time there, is now starting to fall back. And that could be the situation we were talking about earlier as far as guys having too much run too early, as Huffman really starting to fall here. Was, again, up in 3rd at one point, down to 10th. Just lost the 9th position to Justin Winters. And he's about to lose 10th to Matt McMeekin.
He sure is, and they're going to keep going by him. And and I hate talking about drivers, especially when it's like this, when you're just dropping spots. But he is the slowest driver on track by far. Aside from, excuse me, that's a lie. One of the 3 slowest drivers, and all 3 of them are by far. And I hate to talk about drivers like that, but this is a problem that I face at a lot of tracks too. I'm really quick first 20-25 laps, but all of a sudden it's like you've hit a brick wall with the tires and they just no longer turn the way you want them to, and then you're just kind of hanging out there. You're fighting. It's like, let me keep as much as I can for these pit stops. I need these pit stops so I can try to get back out there and gain my spots back. Go ahead.
I think part of the issue, and this is where I wish I had a telestrator, you can see on this in-car view here that we have of Alex Huffman, that right front is bent in a little bit and bent up as compared to the left, so he must have had contact with the wall somewhere around this track, and that's got to be more what's going on with him than tire wear, because he is hemorrhaging positions now. Just lost that one to Chase Barry at the 11. That puts Huffman all the way down to 15th.
Wow. See, yeah, and that changes things for sure. We are in lap 30, so we're getting through this run here, but I couldn't see, and I still can't see any damage. So, sorry, fans. I was unaware that he might have gotten into the wall, but yes, that's why we got. Well, that's why we're both here. We're both looking. But here at Auto Club, even a slight wall touch will end your day. I don't care who you are. It just saps the straightaway speed right out of your machine. And, that being said, that's where we were watching him lose positions, was down the straights. Not so much the corners.
As you see now, this is the battle for the 5th position here, as Jeff Pogo has fallen off both Ryan Jones and Troy Torgerson. Those guys are both up and left, as Thomas Ogle still hanging in there with Jeff Pogo in that number 4. Jones now battling with Jeff Chandler in front, and Jones, this might be another situation where he saw how well it worked for him, not just once, but multiple times last week. That short pit for the driver of the 91 certainly benefited him last week. Could he try to do it again, especially now? He's only 2 seconds off the race leader.
He certainly could. Sometimes he surprises you, and I don't know if he doesn't have the timing like we do, so he can't see his lap times as compared to the rest of the field. But he's one of the fastest cars out on track. And that being said, I I know Jones well enough, but maybe not well enough to guess what he would do. But being one of the faster cars on track, I kind of feel like he might be obligated to stay out a little bit longer. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that information. So I think we're liable to see him be either the first or one of the first 5 drivers to come down pit road. It looks like Tommy Cannon is in from the 19th position.
Yep, Tommy Cannon in pit road. We saw him battling a little bit earlier. Ryan Jones, to your point, a 42.22 was the fastest lap of anyone on track right now. And if you look down the timing, the timing pylon, best laps were in the 40.4s. A 40.41 is the fastest lap of the night for this man, Randy Bechtel, who is leading the race. Right now, Bechtel last lap ran a 42.3. So we have lost 2 seconds of overall race pace over the course of this stint here, and we are not that far away from pit stops.
No, we sure aren't. And green flag pit stops in the iRacing world always mixes things up. There's always that, I don't want to say always, but many times there's always that one driver that either speeds in, speeds off, accidentally speeds on pit road, and then some guys just are able to be super aggressive getting onto pit road, and they make it work, and then they make up tons of time on track, or you can be like me and lose tons of time, something I'm working on. So green flag pit stops are going to be interesting. Can't wait to see how it cycles out. See if Randy Bechtel is going to maintain the lead. Is Jeff Chandler going to take it? Is it going to be Jeff Pogo some odd way, Troy Torgerson, or find out? We'll see in a few laps.
Yep, you're seeing Troy Torgerson right now running in the 4th position. Torgerson, that last lap, third quickest of all drivers, only behind Randy Bechtel, and actually this man here, the driver of the number 14, Matt McMeekin, who, boy, we came in at the right time for McMeekin as he's putting a move on Evan Pienta and also trying to keep Daniel Dill and Roy Lehmans behind him. Chris Brown is in this battle as well in the number 1. So we've got these nice packs here, and with how wide this track is, it's allowing for some great racing.
It sure is, and it's going to be a little bit, I think, before these guys get sorted or start to get spread out. Except for maybe the pitting. That might spread them out, but you're right. We're seeing little breakaways, 3 cars, 4 cars, maybe 5, maybe 2. And it's almost like they can't get away from each other. So it's exciting.
It certainly has been, as Evan Pienta is starting to fall back. We saw him. He started on the pole, and he's going to have nightmares about old tires and long runs here, because these last 2 races have really proved to be negatives for him as far as long runs. The last set of tires that he was on at Las Vegas was absolutely painful for him to have to run through, and now this first set here, he's pushed them to the point to where he has now fallen right on the borderline of that top 10 here from his pole position starting spot. So Pienta really has to change something up to try to save these tires in the next stint.
Yeah, and he sure does, and I guarantee you he's already thinking about it. He's already noticed what it was, and he's going to come back out after the pit cycle, and he's going to change a few things, and I think you're going to see him be a lot better.
As you see Roy Sorry.
I was going to say, but everybody else is going to do the same thing. So we're going to see who does better at adjusting their driving style. And you go ahead to Roy Lehmans now.
Chris Brown had a big run that he took coming out of turn 2, and he's going to get past both Roy Lehmans and Evan Pienta as Lehmans forced to back out of it. Randy Bechtel, the race leader, has come into pit road as we are watching this. So Randy Bechtel, the race leader in pit road. I believe that is Alex Huffman's in as well. Eric Holly, Larry Poling was the driver that was in front of him. So green flag pit stops have started here at Auto Club, just shy of what, a third of the way through this race here. So we could see this race run, if we stay green, on one more pit stop.
Yeah, we sure can. I'm following Ryan Jones right now and Troy Turgerson as Jeff Chandler's coming in. Troy Turgerson. Ryan Jones doing something different, staying out on track. This is the opposite of what he normally does. And I mean, we both know he's listening in, so he's just trying to surprise us. But being the fastest car on track, he can kind of afford to do that. But I would be surprised if he doesn't come in this time.
You know, the problem is the man in front of him right now, once he gets up to speed, is going to be 2 seconds a lap faster, and that could be what Jones is playing at here, is get me 40 laps on this set of tires and on this run of fuel. I can definitely make it on one setting. You can see how loose Randy Bechtel is. Bechtel's sliding, and Bechtel is going to just save the car, not hit anything. Caution comes out.
Wow, as Ryan Jones drives through the grass to avoid pit road. There's going to be some tempers from that one. And I understand what Ryan may have been trying to do. I mean, he was just trying to get down the pit road. But at the same time, he definitely checked up Randy Bechtel, which caused that spin. And it's really going to be in favor of Ryan Jones, unless he might have accrued a penalty right there trying to miss the cone.
Bechtel was...
Which I'm going to go...
Go ahead.
I'm going to go back and look at that and let you know.
Yeah, we're seeing Jones, I believe, has lost a couple of positions. Oh, no, he has not. He's going to be
he's effective race
back
leader.
up in the race lead. As that started.
Nope, he got around. So, sorry about that. I was mentioning that he did not hit the commitment cone, and there should be no penalty assessed, as we saw Ryan. I think the fans saw Ryan Jones drive through the grass to avoid the pit lane when the caution came out.
We had missed Jones. We will get it on the replay here as the leaders start to come into pit road. But you can see that 29 just with so much more power and speed on the back end of his car, and you can see spin it around, and right here at the bottom of your picture here, yep, there's that big swerve as Ryan Jones comes back out on track. And if he would not have done that, that would have been a penalty for the race leader. So staying out this time actually benefiting Ryan Jones.
Yeah, it worked out for him. I can't expect Randy Bechtel to be happy about what happened. I really can't, but that's not for us to decide. But yeah, it does look like it worked out for him. But the downside is he didn't put some guys a lap down. So, I mean, he's going to be starting behind a handful of drivers, it looks like.
Yeah, as of right now, from what we're seeing, the race leader here is going to be the 33 of Jeff Chandler, who's the 5th car in this line. So it'll be Chandler, Torgerson, Pogo, the top 3, as we get set to go. And I do not believe Ryan Jones had a great pit stop there at all. So of the drivers that came into pit here under this caution, Chris Brown was the one that came out first. And Brown will be starting in the 10th position.
Yeah, in comparison, Ryan Jones spent 56 seconds, almost 57 seconds on pit road, and the average looks to be about 52.5, with the fastest being 51:35. So he definitely was on pit road quite a while longer than everybody else.
That could possibly mean he missed his box on pit entry. But right now, that has Randy Bechtel actually pinned a lap down. Well, he's getting his lap back right here with the wave around. But Bechtel right now, with Robert Dudley coming into pit road, will start in 16th position, pardon me. So the man who came into the pit cycle as the race leader, currently sitting mired back in the 16th position. Alex Huffman is back there as well. Here he is coming into pit road. He's sitting 21st right now in that 25. But again, he had some damage on the right front that he had to repair due to an incident that we missed.
Absolutely. Well, that was a looseness issue right there, but what the incident that just caused a caution. However, that was a lot of trying to check up, not hit somebody, trying to go around them. Sorry if I slightly was off topic there. I squirreled for a moment.
You're all right.
But
as we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing here. When we take the green flag, we will be starting lap 44 of this 120 lap event. John, take us down.
I will do my best here. All right, we got the Pace Mustang that's coming in right now. Jeff Chandler and Troy Turgeson are about to be on the gas. Green flag is out. They're smashing the gas. Evan Pienta back into row 2 with Jeff Pogo right there with him as well. Number 33, Jeff Chandler, gets a good start here coming into turn 1. Troy Turgeson's going to try to hang with them here on the outside. It looks like at this time, Jeff Chandler is going to be on point. But however, Evan Pienta, who was dropping on the last run, already showing that short run speed as he's trying to make a move to take the third place position away from Jeff Pogo.
The only duplicate winner of this season is that driver of the number 16 Twisted Tea Ford Mustang. Won at North Wilkesboro in dominating fashion. Won at the road course at Daytona in dominating fashion. You're seeing 3 wide action happening in the middle of the field as McMeekin has a big slide coming off of turn 4. Coming through the grass, we stay green as he kept the car straight. But boy, Matt McMeekin had a huge moment there. And that's part of the, that's actually a Mustang there, as we'll take a look and see, or try to see, what happened here to McMeekin. Ooh, a little bit of side contact there with the 52 of Winters.
Yeah, it sure was, and that's that's about getting everything you can on these restarts before the tires start to fall off, and I feel like that was a product of that. We're on lap 45. It's still a little bit early to get super aggressive, but that's just trying to improve your position. Racing deal gets put through the grass. I hope it doesn't hurt his speed too much. You just got to regroup and keep trucking because you didn't get the caution.
So there is the driver of the number 14, Jack Daniels Ford. He has fallen with that, has fallen down to 19th position. The only driver that is behind him right now is Tommy Cannon on racetrack 4 position. As we go back to the race lead, Jeff Chandler, who was running in second pretty much the duration of that first stint, is now leading the way here. And on the comeback trail, Randy Bechtel has already made his way from the 16th position. He's cut that deficit in half, just getting around Thomas Ogle there. Now chasing Jeff Winter. He's running in the 8th position right now, so the 29 really showing his muscle right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that's the definition of getting all you can on the restart. I wish we would have seen how he did it, but no worries. We know he's up to 8th now. Another driver to watch and to see how he moves forward.
Certainly done one heck of a job to get to where he is right now. Is Randy Bechtel still, well, now on the back bumper of that number 30. We're getting to the back bumper of that number 30 as we start to settle in here. Ryan Jones has also moved his way up on the restart. He's just gotten past the 74 of Roy Lehman's. So the 91, who was the leader when the caution came out, has just gotten himself back into the top 5. So the drivers that were most affected really by that caution flag working their way up rather quickly.
Yeah, they're lap or 2 fresher tires. At this track with the massive fall off, it makes a difference. Looks like Ryan Jones is one of the fastest last time by. Not this time, but he was last time by.
Ryan Jones.
You can just hear I was gonna say, you can hear the tires scrubbing in these corners with this. I wish I remembered the degree of banking, and unfortunately, I don't get so technical. I just drive the dang track, But in turn 1, there's definitely a lot of tire scrub, a little more so than turns 3 and 4, and you can definitely hear that clearly. when you're on board with these drivers tonight.
Seeing Evan Pienta as the 4 of Jeff Pogo tries to chase him down. Pienta currently occupying the 3rd position in that number 16. Your 4 of Jeff Pogo in 4th as Troy Torgerson has taken over the race lead here. And Torgerson, it was really from that first green flag pit stop on last week at Las Vegas where he showed his dominance and showed how good he can be. He's been mired back in the field a little bit, was started in the 4th position, fell back to around 7th or 8th, and now with the pit stop, and now with the caution flag, has found himself back up where he started. He's pushed that number 98 Navy Ford into the race lead. And we were talking earlier about this being possibly a Ford night, top 5, all Fords.
Sure are. Then there's that lone Toyota, or excuse me, one of the 2 Toyotas. I wish it was the lone Toyota, but Roy Lehman's in the 6th position before you see 4 Chevrolets. Leading that charge is Randy Bechtel. He's looking to break up the top 5 Fords, and I expect that it's going to happen shortly.
Bechtel has gotten around the 30 of Jeff Winter. As a matter of fact, quite a few people have gotten around the 30 of Jeff Winter at the moment. Winter was in 7th the last time we checked up on him. There he is running in the 11th position right now in that number 30 as we're inching closer and closer to the halfway point here at Auto Club Speedway. Ryan Jones now has gotten to the inside of Jeff Pogo for the 4th position. Trying to he's going to see if he can make that move stick going into turn 3. He will make it stick going into turn 3. Ryan Jones, number 91, up to P4 as Alex Huffman has entered and exited pit road.
That's surprising. I wonder why he came down and had to pit. It looks like he has disconnected.
So Alex Huffman deciding that the damage and the repairs were not sufficient enough to allow him to continue. So unfortunately, one small mistake has cost Alex Huffman an evening. That will be the 3rd retirement of the night to go with Mike Mock and Zach Calloway. Right now, the only 2 drivers on track right now that are not on the lead lap. That is the 69 of Larry Poling and the 47 of Tommy Cannon. Everybody else on the lead lap as it stands as we start lap number 54. Troy Torgerson in the race lead, leading this run of 6 drivers. Then it's about 2 seconds back to the man who had the race lead for a vast majority of the first stint of this race, Randy Bechtel, who is leading a group of Thomas Ogle, Justin Winters, Chris Brown, Jeff Winter in this group, Jamie Leach in this group as well. And it goes all the way down to Stephen Holmes in the number 9, who's the tail of this group, running in the 14th position. So a nice little group of cars here in the middle of the field.
There's that Velo Duds machine once again, a little bit more free advertising, that cycle shop. We didn't get to tell everybody about that. I remember that, but that's a cycle shop. T-shirts, hoodies, things like that. So go ahead and check that out for that, for Stephen Holmes.
That was the sponsor that we had the free plug last week for. Speaking of free plugs, we have a couple of paid ones we need to get to. Tonight's race is sponsored by DiecastNuts.com. Diecast Nuts is a community site for people who love diecast, whether you want to post your collection, view other members' collections, or buy or trade to add to your own collection. Diecast Nuts is the #1 place to go. Other automotive memorabilia is available as well at diecastnuts.com. That's nuts with a Z, diecastnuts.com, or find them on Facebook by searching Diecast Nuts. Tonight's race also sponsored by Rocket Racing Setups. Rocket Racing Setups is quickly becoming one of the lead setup builders for the iRacing community. If you need a proven race winner for your league or your run for the official season championship, Rocket Racing Setups is what you need in order to get that trophy. Rocket Racing Setups offers both dirt and asphalt setups along with setup adjustment guides and precise fuel sheets with the ability to request setups and one-on-one coaching. If you like to build your own, Rocket Racing Setups is really difficult to beat for the price. If you're ready to take your sim racing experience to the next level, head on over to rocketracingsetups.com today. And links to both websites you can find on...
It's on the event, I believe.
Yep, on the event and on our website, which you can find in the comments in the description below here, espnofficial.com. And we're getting word in the YouTube chat right now that Huffman had to pull off, had no sound, so he couldn't hear anything, couldn't hear his car, decided to just pull off tonight as we go back up to the race lead, as Jeff Chandler putting Troy Torgerson under a solid amount of pressure.
That's rather unfortunate for Alex Huffman. Sorry to change the subject back to that, but I've dealt with that a few times before. So my headset, which I'm using right now, if you ever so slightly wiggle that USB cord, it's gone. No, well, so the sound would be gone. My fix for that has a lot to do with broadcasting for you guys. I've used virtual cables in a weird way and have sound inputs going in all sorts of different ways. So a visual representation of me when I have to change sliders and turn up volumes in my ears, it's kind of like my head's popping off. But that has eliminated that issue for me, fortunately. But I understand the pain of losing sound, and it does get very difficult to continue on in the race.
See, my way to solve that problem is don't unplug the thing. I actually did unplug it by accident yesterday. Plugged it back in, and I didn't have sound in my right ear, and it turned out that my the headphone jack in the audio mixer was was loose a little bit, so I just took it out, plugged it back in, and we're fine now.
Well, that's what we'd like to hear. Doesn't really work like that for all computers. Sometimes you unplug it and everything freaks the hell out.
Yep, and that's kind of what it did, and I finally figured it out. But going back here to this
the race,
we're about to hit the halfway point here. Troy Torgerson in the lead right now, but behind him and Jeff Chandler is this battle. Ryan Jones in the 91, you see him up there sitting in third. Roy Leemans, who we really haven't seen much of since his great run back at Chicagoland, the second round of the season, is having a very solid run here to the halfway point tonight, fighting for the fourth position with Jeff Pogo.
He sure is. I'm trying to catch up to you here. Pre-race, we were talking about timing issues. We are definitely having them. I'm doing the best I can to follow you. Sometimes I got to squirrel to keep the air moving, or the commentary.
Good, bud. As we look now at the fifth position, Roy Leemans. Behind him, once again, Evan Pienta starting to fall off little by little, and it seems to be the turn 3 and 4 area where Pienta is really starting to lose to the guys in front of him. Pienta running a 42.42 last lap. To put that into perspective, the leader, Troy Torgerson, ran a 41.9 last lap. So a half a second off the pace of the race leaders is the man who sat on pole for tonight's event, Evan Pienta.
Yeah, and he, at least as of right now, we haven't really hit that long run yet. He hasn't fallen off yet, or the same, or he did exactly as I mentioned earlier. He's made his adjustments. He's changed this line a little bit, maybe changed how much throttle he uses on entry, and he's starting to settle in more or less where we would expect to see him driving in this field.
Certainly now holding that sixth position. He has Thomas Ogle, Chris Brown, and Randy Bechtel, who is actually starting to fall off in that number 29, and it makes sense. Again, he started back in the 16th position, worked his way up pretty much immediately all the way up to 7th, and now starting to fall back as that early push has really hurt the tires, and you're seeing the results of that now.
Yeah, that's very true. But we know he's a long run guy, so he might fall off a little bit in the middle. I anticipate that as the run goes on, we're gonna see him gain a couple of those positions back. I mean, this league right here, you're not just gonna, the old PlayStation, Xbox days, early mid 2000s, where you pull on the straightaway and you just go by the field. That's not gonna happen in this league. It's gonna take a couple pit cycles for him to make that ground back up. But we'll keep a close eye on him. I expect that he can do it.
He's certainly proven in the past that he can. Again, winning at two of the more difficult and trickier racetracks that we've had on the schedule at North Wilkesboro and at Daytona. You're seeing the battle right now for the fourth position as Roy Leemans has gotten around Jeff Pogo in the number 40. And going back to what you were talking about as far as the long runs, we are a little bit past halfway, not just in the race, but halfway in this run. And right now, we are at a spot with where that caution came out where you can make it on just one more stop here. So we're expecting green flag stops in about 15 laps. And you are right to what you said. Pienta has not fallen off as bad as he did in the first stint. So what he's done here in the second one, it's about to get passed by Thomas Ogle, just has to expand on what he did a little bit more to save those tires a little bit more.
Right. I don't want to call it a battle, but it's an in-race learning experience. He's got to get a little better each time, a little bit better each time, and he's showing that right now. Assuming he doesn't drop another 3 or 4 spots, he's done exactly that. So we'll keep an eye on it, kind of see what happens. If we want to talk about a driver that I hate to say my prediction might have been wrong, that number 11 of Chase Berry, he still seems to be struggling. He's holding position back in 17th still.
Yeah, Barry right now. Barry started up in the top 5 on this last restart. He has now fallen into a position to where he's in the 17th position right now. But he's fallen into a spot where he's 3.5 seconds behind the car ahead of him, almost 3 seconds ahead of the car behind him. So that one of Chase Berry having a mare of a night, and here is that car that is trying to chase him down. That's the 8 of Eric Holly. And Holly right now, the last car on the lead lap.
It's not a spot that you want to be at. However, I don't think he's at risk of going a lap down right now. That could change during the pit cycle. Which is standard. Everybody goes a lap down for at least a short amount of time. But, he's about 17 seconds back from our leader, Troy Turgeson, right now. So, not in too much danger. But it seems like the track, I hate to say this, Mr. Chase Berry, it seems like I might be getting the better of him. This is not one of my strong tracks by far. So, and it's not an easy track, and a lot of people misconstrued that. Some people struggle with this track. I'm one of them. Man, there's a few things I'm good at. This track's not one of them.
And it's so similar to the Michigan International Speedway. The major difference is it's the level of banking in these corners, and that really throws these drivers off. And with the California heat that it gets really all year long, this track has not been repaved since it debuted on the calendar in 1997. So this is an old race surface that sees a lot of heat over the course of the year, so it's going to wear that pavement out. And the difference in banking, it really does make a difference. You cannot drive this place the way you would Michigan.
No, sir. I was about to say, please don't compare this and say it's just like Michigan, because I am very good at Michigan. Not so much here. It might be because the corners are slightly deceiving. As you're coming up to them, you can kind of second guess your line, and when you second guess your line, you're liable to make a mistake, and there goes your run for the rest of that lap. Got to build up momentum again. Oh, and by the way, drop 2 spots, things like that. So.
Speaking of moving on, we are going to move on to a break right here as we start lap 71. We're about 10 laps away from where we would expect Actually, we are going to wait a little bit here because Randy Bechtel has come into pit road.
Yes, he
was
has.
in the 9th position. Tommy Cannon is in. Eric Holly is in. And that's a very interesting decision. Now, for Bechtel, we understand with how hard he had to race to try to get his positions back that he lost by spinning, causing the first caution. But this also puts these guys out of a spot to where you only need one more stop to go the rest of the way.
Well, just some different strategies. Eric Holly's in, Tommy Cannon. It looks like Evan Pienter's in. And if this pulls everybody down with them, it doesn't matter. So we'll just have to see what happens. But we also got to remember how much faster he's going to be for the next 15 or 20 laps. Does that make the difference of getting a splash later if he needs to, or coming in taking half a tank? I don't think it's going to work out that way. If these guys can make it one lap or one pit stop to the end of the race, we'll just have to find out.
It's Daytona all over again. Remember, we had that pit stop at Daytona just outside the window as to whether or not you could make it on fuel 2 weeks ago at the road course at Daytona. And we are in that point now, not seeing any of the leaders coming into pit road just yet. But guys who were struggling on their tires, i.e. Evan Pienta, Randy Bechtel, those guys have all decided to come in. And by the way, Eric Holly had a speeding penalty going on to pit road in his box for 52 seconds. So Holly getting blipped by the speeding police.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna put him close to 2 laps down. That could effectively end his drive for a top 10 tonight. We'll keep an eye out on it. Things could change as Jeff Chandler's in, and here comes Jeff Winter as well.
Yep, Jeff Winter in the number 30 is in. Chandler, as you had mentioned, is in as well. Troy Torgerson now is left all alone, 1.5 seconds clear of Ryan Jones. His pit stop starting a little bit earlier than what we had expected. Some guys maybe trying to get the undercut. They saw how well it worked last week at Las Vegas, could be trying to do the same thing here. I would have to assume Torgerson is going to be coming in these next couple laps. It's not going to be this one for the driver of the 98. But as of right now, didn't see anybody come in that lap. So right now, just Jeff Chandler and Jeff Winter coming in. You can see Jeff Chandler coming out of pit road there.
Yeah, that's surprising, but I mean, could be difference of strategies here. I do expect within about 5 laps, everybody else is going to start coming down because they're just going to start dropping too much time. And I mean, and the way this works out, we have another incident in the pit cycle. Somebody spins, things like that, and then those guys that just pitted, they're in the catbird seat.
Jeff Chandler is going to have one heck of an amount of speed. As there's Troy Torgerson flashing across the start-finish line. Chandler is back into the position he vacated on track, not necessarily the position that he had vacated. And right now, Chandler does have a little bit of worry to him right now because only 2.7 seconds behind him is this man, Randy Bechtel, who he is fighting for the lucky dog position. As it sits right now, and Bechtel has been up and on those tires for the last 3 laps. He's got the heat in him. He's got, unfortunately, the goodie out of them. Something that Chandler has not done, but that could be a cause for some concern for the driver of the 33.
It very well could be. We'll just have to see how this goes, how it cycles out. This might work out for Randy Bechtel because now he can just get out there and drive the car. Now he doesn't have to fight these guys too hard because he's working a pit strategy and maybe trying to get by everybody coming from 16th. That's what kind of ate his tires up early. He's making a quick adjustment. All right, let's come in and try to play for the caution and just kind of see what happens. He's really flying out there right now too.
Yep, Bechtel right now about to pass the second-place runner Ryan Jones, and these guys are committing to the one-stop strategy, one stop the rest of the way, as Torgerson still in the race lead. Daniel Dill has come into pit road. Jeff Chandler has gotten his lap back the hard way by getting back around Troy Torgerson on track. The next car ahead of the 29 of Bechtel, as you see there, is Troy Torgerson. And Evan Pienta would be the next car to get that treatment. He is currently sitting behind the third place runner, Roy Lehmans, trying to get his lap back. Pienta coming in on lap 71, so a lap after Bechtel and 2 laps before Jeff Chandler.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So they fooled us a little bit. Pit cycle hasn't really began. Just the early takers, the guys trying to make this a 2-stop to the end race. Well, now I guess a 1-stop for them. But trying to do 2 stops as opposed to everybody else doing 1.
You're in the range now to where you can make it on just 1 more stop. You see Randy Bechtel has gotten his lap back on Troy Torgerson. And just to put it into perspective, the speed differential as Lehmans and Pogo, Chris Brown in as well. So those 3 guys making a dive to pit road. That's 3rd, 4th, and I believe 6th that came in there. Justin Winters, Stephen Holmes in as well. So this is exactly what we were expecting. You're in the window now to be able to make it on 1 more stop. This is where we would expect it to see the pit stops coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. The 7th through 12th are in right now. Let's keep an eye out on Troy Torgerson, Ryan Jones. What are these guys going to do? I think those guys are too far back
coming in.
to. He sure is. I think they're too far back to make an undercut work to take position away, as I see Ryan Jones coming in as well. But these guys, aren't going to let them do it. Aren't going to let them do it. So 1st through 3rd all coming down pit road right now at this time.
Yep, 1st through 3rd, Torgerson, Jones, and Ogle. Jamie Leach, there you see him. He has Matt McMeekin right behind him. These guys are running for the race lead at the moment. So Jamie Leach will get a bonus point for a lap led here tonight. As Torgerson and Jones and Ogle all out of pit road, so no penalties to report on this round of pit stops, short of Eric Holly's pit road speeding penalty. As we have 40 laps to go, you're watching the leader right now, Jamie Leach. And these guys would have to expect them to be coming in, as I believe that's Justin Winters, had a big moment coming out of turn number 4 as he is really slow down the front straightaway. You can tell what that loss of momentum does. Really hard to pick the pace back up.
Yeah, unfortunately, like we were talking about, that loss of momentum can really cost you. Something to keep an eye out on track. Ryan Jones lost about 2.25 seconds to Troy Torgerson on that.
Jones with a big slapper. Wow, he saved that car.
Wow, I missed it.
Oh my goodness. We'll try to go back to it here as Jones was battling with Roy Lehmans. We'll try to see where that was. Try to see here. Hold on 1 second. We'll get back to it. Hopefully. Yep, here it is. These guys battling. And you can just see how happy that 91 got. And was somehow able to save that car. So bang on time with that call for Ryan Jones. That was certainly some excitement that he didn't want.
No, that's rather unfortunate. I mean, all this time being in the top 3, and now he's going to fall back to 10th. I mean, good job hanging on to the car, but that's definitely got to be disappointing.
And it was nothing different as far as pit stops, so he had to have had some sort of issue getting back on the track.
Well, he lost 2 seconds getting back on the track. Yeah, I think Troy Torgerson got in just a touch better and got off a touch quicker. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, no, in fact, Ryan Jones spent 52.63 seconds pit lane time. Troy Torgerson, 50.77. There was your difference.
as you're seeing now Jones trying to regain those positions
Caution's out.
that he just lost. And you're right, the caution is out. As Ryan Jones actually just set the fastest lap of the race, and I believe it was Matt McMeekin that had the issue that caused caution number 2. And a hard hit into the turn 4 wall for the number 14. Would have to
that
assume
time
he got a tank slapper again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that timing worked. I caught that live. Guess what, though? Here's that caution that Randy Bechtel and Evan Pienta needed.
Exactly right.
Throw that pitch strategy out the window. No longer matters.
See, this is the 14 of McMeekin coming out of pit road. There's a little issue there in turn 2. Again, came right in at the same time with Jamie Leach. Here he comes. Ooh, we got a big wiggle going into 3 and just never caught the car properly. And wow, that was a hard hit.
Virtual race cars save lives.
Yeah, they certainly do. As now we would expect the field to come in, or at least portion of the field to come in. And surprisingly, Troy Torgerson, Chris Brown, Thomas Ogle deciding to stay out here.
I think that's a bad idea. I think that was a mistake.
To be fair to them, they really didn't put too many laps on those tires, maybe 2 or 3.
Maybe, but I think they're going to get 8 up here. Gotta be honest, especially when you got guys like Ryan Jones going to get fresh tires, try to make up what happened. Evan Pienta came in. He's fast early. Randy Bechtel came down. We know he's fast.
Chandler wins the race off of pit road, and I believe Roy Lehman just did clip Randy Bechtel on pit exit. So Jeff Chandler, the fastest man off of pit road, and yep, I was right. Roy Lehman's did get Bechtel on pit exit.
You know, another thing I want to mention after the caution was caused by Matt McMeekin, he is also retired for the night.
I could imagine with how hard he hit that wall. So Jeff Chandler right now, the man you're seeing on screen, will be restarting in the 5th position. Troy Torgerson, Chris Brown, Thomas Ogle, Justin Winters all decided to stay out. Under this caution flag, Tommy Cannon, who you see going into pit road now, is a lap down at the moment. So as we get set to go back green flag racing here, it'll be Troy Torgerson, Chris Brown, Thomas Ogle, Justin Winters, the first 2 rows. Torgerson coming in on lap 80, Brown lap 79. Same thing with Ogle, so the inside line came in on lap 80, the outside on lap 79. Everyone behind them on lap 75. So only about 3 or 4 laps of green flag running on those tires for the drivers in front. But yeah, those drivers in back, they might have quite an advantage here now.
I absolutely expect them to. They're going to be coming on this restart. It could cause some more issues, and if it doesn't, the long run, it's going to make a difference because I assume everybody's going to go to the end here without another caution.
Yeah, that would be the expectation. And right now, your Vegas odds are at a push with 2 here. That's what you predicted at the beginning of this race, and both of them coming around the pit cycle. So we've had no genuine accidents here. It's just been all pit cycle stuff. Guys getting used to being back on new tires after pushing for so long on old ones. As the pace car getting set to duck on off here for yet another restart. About to go green here. Working lap 87. here at Auto Club. We are back to green flag racing. Inside line gets a great jump. Chris Brown really stacks that outside line up.
He sure does, and already as we're looking at the number 33, Jeff Chandler's trying to fend off number 16, Evan Pienta, sliding right now, down off track. He spins, saves it.
Jared
what about
Hagedorn
number 2?
Caught up in that as well, and there's Hagedorn spinning down well off the racetrack, so the caution will not come out here for this. That is Jared Hagedorn, who got caught up trying to save his car away from that sliding number 16. We'll try to see what happened there again as Evan Pienta went for a big slide coming out of turn 2, just pushed a little too hard on that new set of tires.
This sure looked like Formula Drift for a second. Both cars did the exact same thing. That was actually a really cool shot. Try to get that clip after the race if you can.
Certainly try it, as both of those guys now fall to the back. Hagedorn and Pienta, the last 2 drivers right now that are on the lead lap. Pienta running in the 16th position, Hagedorn in 17th. As I believe somebody else had an issue. Wow, a big slide. That was that was Robert Dudley. That had a big slide right in front of him.
Yeah, rubber on the track is starting to make the difference here. I want to relegate after we look at this. Jeff Chandler has already made his way up to P3. Ooh. Those tires already working for him. Yeah, that was a pretty close call right there. Really close call.
That was with him and Eric Holly, Dudley being the him. As we go back up to the front of the field here, Troy Torgerson, Thomas Ogle, Jeff Chandler to the inside looking for that second position. Chandler has found a home in second position here tonight. Started in third, has spent a vast majority of this race running right behind the leader, whether it was Randy Bechtel or now it's Troy Torgerson. And Roy Lehman's.
Ryan Jones way down low trying to get some positions back here as he gets around Jeff Pogo. Another driver who's on a mission to get back up to the front. He is used to that P3 position. Yep, up to Jones 6 now.
Yep, as Roy Lehman's got a little bit loose. Almost collected Justin Winters coming off of turn 2. Ryan Jones now trying to put a block on Jeff Pogo. Jones with the 6th position, Pogo in 8th. That's Justin Winters in 7th on the outside there as Lehman's gets back into the top 4 in that number 74 Aaron's Dream Machine. And looming right behind them is that blue number 29. That is Randy Bechtel, who stands to leave tonight with the points lead if we stay green, because there is no way that Evan Pienta is catching up the positions he needs to try to stay in that points lead.
Yeah, absolutely. If this stays the way it is, or similar to this, he'll have the 2 big point stays that he needed, like you mentioned, to take over the lead here for the USRA League. However, the race is not over. Tempers are starting to come up. Emotions are starting to get higher. People are making moves. It's go time. Something could happen.
It certainly
Hold your breath.
It certainly is, and this being the start of the second half to the season. Only seen 1 duplicate winner thus far this year, and that is Evan Pienta. 7 different winners total through the first 8 races. 7 unique different winners this year, as Pogo trying to get around Justin Winters in the for the 7th position, as Ryan Jones has been able to clear both Winters and Pogo. He's also been able to clear Chris Brown up into the 5th position, is the driver of the 91, looking for more, as Roy Lehman's is the next man on his target list.
Yeah, then if he gets past Roy Lehman's here, he'll be able to start working on Thomas Ogle, who's got 5-lap older tires than both of them. Thomas Ogle and Troy Turgis doing a good job on the old tires as of right now. Still running pretty comparable lap times, except for this time looks like Troy Turgeson just lost the lead to Jeff Chandler. those fresher tires are definitely coming into play, but they're doing a decent job on old stuff as of right now.
Yeah, that was a nice little wiggle there from the 33 of Jeff Chandler going through turn 2 as Torgerson not letting up at all. There is the change for third position as Roy Lehmans has gotten around Thomas Ogle. Ryan Jones behind him, a little bit of a gap. So we got 2 cars gap, 3 cars gap, 3 cars gap through this top 10.
Just those little breakaways that we were talking about earlier. That just kind of seems to be the way this track does it.
Jeff Pogo getting around Chris Brown there. That is for the 6th position. So Jeff Pogo if he lost his top 2 streak, certainly wants to keep a top 5 streak going as Ryan Jones looks to the inside of Thomas Ogle for the 4th position. 91 catches that position.
He sure does. Now he's got his eyes set on the position that he held for a large portion of the first half of this race. Roy Lehmans has it. Ryan Jones wants it, but he wants more than that if he can get it.
Yep, certainly does, as Jeff Chandler now, with the benefit of those 5-lap fresher tires, is starting to move away from Troy Torgerson. This is the biggest lead of the race that we've seen since the first run. Chandler with a half a second lead over Troy Torgerson. Roy Lehmans putting the number 98 under a pretty good amount of duress right now. Tries to get under the 98 coming out of turn 4, does successfully, and you see the race to the line. It's going to be the 74's position. It's just a matter of when. Prior to turn 1.
Yeah, it sure looks like that's how it worked out. However, Ryan Jones is lurking right there behind Troy Torgerson. Tires really starting to make the difference here. Troy Torgerson doing an excellent job still hanging on up here in P3, but it's not... I'm thinking staying out was just not a good idea. Maybe he was expecting the rest of the field to stay out with them, but it might have been a situation where you're kind of... What do? You stay out, everybody comes in. If you go in, everybody stays out.
My thought with what he was thinking was everybody just came in, so I can't imagine that they're all going to come in again, which is why he stayed out. Now, that's the thought that would have been going through my mind if I were him. But when you're that close on fuel, like when you're right on the edge of the window, which is where we were when the caution came out, you were just able to make it. You have to be able to cover yourself just in case there is a green-white checkered or multiple green-white checkers. And that's what these drivers have done, except for those who stayed out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can show it now. Tires are 4 of the top 5 cars as the guys who stayed out. Chris Brown, Justin Winters is already back to 13th. Chris Brown back to 8th. Thomas Ogle, 7th. Troy Torgerson's the highest position of those cars, or drivers that stayed out.
Torgerson needs a caution now, essentially, if he wants to get a crack at that win before he falls too far back. There is the man that everybody is chasing right now, Jeff Chandler, who is the fastest man in practice, qualified in 3rd. Chandler has spent a vast majority of today in 2nd, but Randy Bechtel, who led the entirety of the first stint of this race, got caught on a caution flag, got sent all the way back down to the 18th position, then forced a short pit due to the ability of his tires after working his way through the field. Now, Troy Torgerson, the man that Chandler has been fighting in the 2nd stint, makes a mistake and does not come into pit road. That is how Chandler has finally found himself in the lead as we hit 20 laps to go.
Absolutely. Got another driver update. Chase Berry, driver of the number 11 machine, has also retired for the evening.
That would have been just this past lap, so Chase Berry, unfortunately, done for the evening. That brings our retirement number up to 5 on the clock. As there you see now the two men who have led a vast majority of this race, Troy Torgerson and Randy Bechtel, battling it out. This is for the final position in the top 5. Bechtel takes it. And now the chase is on to see if he can chase down Jeff Pogo in the number 4. He has 18 laps to do it. And right now, Jeff Chandler starting to pull away, has a second gap over Roy Lehmans and Ryan Jones. There you see the top 5, well 6 now really, in your screen. Roy Lehmans in the middle. While we have a second of downtime, we'd like to tell you about what's coming up on ESPN over the next 4 events. The iRacing East Superspeedway Series heads to Talladega tomorrow night for round 2. Nate Siefker and I will be in the booth for that. Western States Racing League action on Tuesday night from Richmond. That race will start at 10:05. We'll be back again with the USRA Cup Series here next Thursday.
Big wiggle from the 74 machine. There goes your downtime.
Yep, there it is. Still
we'll get back to you.
Still managing to keep that second position, though. Ryan Jones, however, with that momentum loss of the 74, is able to get around and into the second position. So Ryan Jones back up to second, but Lehmans is not letting it go. He is trying to fight for everything he's worth with 16 laps to go to try to get that position back.
He sure is. He's all over the rear bumper of the number 91 machine of Ryan Jones. If Ryan Jones gets a good turn in here, he's able to open up the gap to a little bit over a car length coming out of turn 2.
Next week, this series will head to Dover for round number 10 of their season. Also debuting next Thursday night will be an hour after we drop the green flag at Dover, will be the Dirty Old Bastards 410 Sprint Series. They will start their season at Volusia Speedway Park. That will be at 8:50 p.m. And for those of you who saw last night's broadcast and saw the schedule, there has been a little bit of a change. Chris Cup has decided to postpone their race this Sunday night. That I believe was supposed to be at Nashville. That race has been pushed back to next Sunday night. So Chris Cup will be here, will still here on ESPN, but that race that was scheduled for this Sunday has been pushed back to next Sunday at Nashville.
That is 100% due to football.
Yep, that is the championship week for the NFL, and I would have to assume that the week after Nashville is going to be a week off as well for Super Bowl Sunday.
Well, it's a 2-week stint, I believe it is. Yeah, it would be 2 weeks. Let me double check here. We're off this week. We'll be racing the 31st, and we'll be off for the Super Bowl
on the 7th.
Right, it's undecided about Valentine's Day. We were taking that off, but with this change, we may not. We'll have to see what all the wives and girlfriends say. We'll figure that out later.
You're watching the battle for the 8th position right now between Chris Brown and Daniel Dill as we hit 13 laps to go. One up too far. As Thomas Ogle starting to fall back to those guys. Troy Torgerson doing the same. As Jeff Chandler is opening up that race lead on Ryan Jones. When we started doing the schedule, the upcoming schedule, it was 0.8 of a second. He has since doubled that on Ryan Jones. Roy Lehmans now coming under fire from Jeff Pogo, who's trying to get back on the podium after finishing in 5th last week at Las Vegas. And Randy Bechtel still trying to recover from getting caught on that caution flag on the first stint right behind him.
Sure is. I mean, emotions starting to come up. We're coming down to the wire here. About 10 laps. What, about 11 and a half laps to go? 10 and a half laps to go. It's go time. People are going to start making moves. Who's it going to be? Is there going to be another caution? Is that going to change the complexion of the race? Jeff Chandler has a commanding lead over the field at the moment, about 2 seconds over Ryan Jones, with about second and 3/4 over Ryan Jones, but probably out of reach at this point would tend to go with current race pace, but a lot can still change. There's close racing, anything can happen.
A 42.08 for Jeff Chandler that last time through. Ryan Jones with a 42.15. Roy Lehman's right now the slowest driver in the top 10, ran a 42.30. He is really getting chased down by the 4 of Jeff Pogo, and he is going to be coming under quite a considerable amount of fire here as we enter 10 laps to go. A little bit of a slip going into turn 3 from the 74. As Lehman's will live to hold on to that position for at least another lap here. Ryan Jones, second place, right in front of them. So this is not just a battle for the final step on the podium. This is a battle for second place as well. Jones actually starting to slip back a little bit towards these guys. As we had mentioned, Lehman's the slowest driver in the top 5 the last lap. The lap prior to last. Ryan Jones actually the slowest of the top 5 this last time around.
Yeah, and I want to recap. Ryan Jones had to move the farthest up on this last run, I believe, than everybody else here. So he had to battle quite a few cars to get to where he is. So he might have used up a little more of his tires than the guys behind him battling for that P3 position, which could become a battle for second.
And Randy Bechtel right now, you just saw him take over the 4th position. So that Dryden number 29 Chevrolet really starting to hook up here with 9 laps to go towards the end of what would be just a normal long run here at Auto Club. The 74 of Roy Lehman's fortunately had that little bit of a distraction between the 2 behind them, was able to get a little bit of a gap now to 3/10 over the 29 and the 4. However, guys like Troy Torgerson still hanging on to the back end of that group. Thomas Ogle still falling back. Chris Brown, Daniel Dill. Brown has actually overtaken Daniel Dill in that number 81. That is for the 8th position. Pardon me. And the run up at the front. You just saw the leader flash by at the bottom of your screen. There he is, the 33. 2.1 second advantage right now over the rest of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming to lap 114. I don't think these guys can catch the leader without a caution unless something really weird happens. Ryan Jones is not out of reach, though. You've got 3 guys in the hunt, like you were talking about. And Randy Bechtel has moved up to 3rd place. You know he's hungry. Like I spoke about earlier, it was going to take a few cycles. He's back. He's in 3rd, and he is the fastest driver in that group.
Yep, 74 just got a little bit loose coming off of turn 4, broke his momentum that allowed the 29 and the 4 around. Troy Torgerson trying to get back into the top 5. He will with this pass on Roy Lehman. So Lehman's coming back on that outside as Torgerson had to let up as he started to push up the track. So Lehman's, in the matter of 1 lap, finds himself going from 3rd to 6th as Torgerson's going to have to take a really shallow line going into turn 1 here. He will get the move done on Roy Lehman's, but Lehman's will have the momentum to try to get him going into 3.
Yep, we're going to see what it looks like when he comes down into turn 3 here. But what happened to Roy Lehman's is you kill that momentum. It takes a whole lap to get it back. It looks like he's got it back now, but that's what cost him the 3 positions.
It's almost like a restrictor plate race. You don't normally hear. You got to build that momentum back up on a non-restrictor plate track. Just 5 laps to go here, as this is the battle for the second spot. Ryan Jones currently sitting 3/4 of a second ahead of Randy Bechtel and Jeff Pogo. Bechtel has the final spot on the podium right now if the race were to end right now. Thomas Ogle, you see him in the background there, getting a run and getting around Roy Lehman's. It looks as though Lehman's tires have just finally given up.
It sure does. And I mean, kudos to Troy Torgerson and Thomas Ogle for running their race and on these 5-lap older tires and really doing a good job at it. But it looks like Roy Lehman's has quite a run here on the number 23. We're going to see what he tries to do, if he's going to make a run on the high side. Looks like Thomas Ogle is going to make him go underneath, and Roy Lehman thinks otherwise of that.
Lehman's has Chris Brown behind him. Now, Brown was another one of those guys that did not pit under the last caution. As we go back up to the battle for the second position, it's simmered out quite significantly here. Ryan Jones has lost 1/10 of a second to Randy Bechtel, still the gap over half a second. The gap between Bechtel and Pogo now is currently at half a second. So these guys sort of, they've gotten to this point to where they're too far away from each other to make a move, and there might not be enough time to be able to make that gap up. Bechtel, as I say that, though, fastest car on track at a 42.21, 0.2 quicker than Ryan Jones. He keeps that pace up. He might get him right around here on the final lap.
Yeah, he just might. I'm thinking the battle's going to be between 6th, 7th, Thomas Ogle, Chris Brown, and then farther back between Jamie Leach and Stephen Holmes. That's 11th and 12th. I think that's where going to be our watch areas.
Oh, Roy Lehman's Daniel Dill. Dill keeps it straight.
Wow.
And that looked as though Lehman's tried a desperation lunge going into 3 to try to maintain one spot and almost caused a caution. So we'll see what happened here going through 3 and just, had a better run through the center of the corner. Drove right up into the corner of the 81, unfortunately.
And now it looks like he might lose that position.
Yep, he certainly might, but the battle now here is for the second position. Randy Bechtel, as we come to the white flag, has gotten back up to the driver of the 91, Ryan Jones, so he'll have one crack at it going through turn 3 here on the final lap. Jeff Chandler.
Jeff Chandler is in the lead. But I was going to say, it's last time by, Randy Bechtel was 0.2 faster than Ryan Jones. If he does that again, he'll have the position coming down the backstretch now.
He certainly might. As there you see in the foreground right here, it is the 33 of Jeff Chandler, has had one heck of a race. Has been up in the top 2 the entire night. The 2 leaders have made mistakes. He's been there to capitalize on it. Your winner of the ASPCA 240 is Jeff Chandler. Ryan Jones holds on to second place. Bechtel needed one more lap, and Pogo able to hold on for Troy Torgerson to get the 4th spot.
And kudos to Troy Torgerson making it work on those older tires. Brings it home P5. Good run. And not to fault Thomas Ogle either. He did another outstanding job. Only lost a couple positions from that last restart.
He certainly did. And what a race run by Jeff Chandler. Your winner here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think he dropped below P3 except for during cautions all race.
Yeah, no, he was right up there the entire night.
Yeah, he did exactly what he had to do. I ran a mistake-free race.
So we will get a word. What was that? I'm sorry.
I said Andy was fast as well.
Yes.
Mistake-free and fast, race winner, chicken dinner. That's your thing.
Certainly helps. So we will hear from Randy Bechtel, Ryan Jones, and hopefully we'll hear from Jeff Chandler. Yes, we will hear from Jeff Chandler. What am I saying? Of course, we'll hear from the driver of the 33. As we'll get these guys here momentarily.
And check this out. Randy Bechtel, Ryan Jones finishing the same position as last week. Second and third.
Exactly right. So there is your race winner. Eric Holly burning it down on the back straightaway. As there's one guy we saw just flash by the screen there is a guy who had a very good night. Well, had a solid night that was unfortunately ruined with one mistake at the start of this run, and that was Evan Pienta. And with how this race had gone, once that mistake was made, it was pretty much curtains for the driver of the 16.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to go ahead and give the points lead to Randy Bechtel, so that I would be happy with the podium and taking over the points lead at the halfway mark, or I guess not the halfway mark, the start of the second half of the series. So P3 for Randy Bechtel.
Certainly, and we'll get Jeff Chandler in here in just a moment here. We'll give him a second to let him burn it down before we get him in here. There we go. And John, you are with our race winner, Jeff Chandler.
Mr. Jeff Chandler driving the number 33 Ford, who's still spinning tires around right there in front of second place finisher Ryan Jones and third place Randy Bechtel. You held P2 for a large majority of the first half of the race. Were fast, mistake-free, came home first. How'd you do it?
Honestly, I have to thank Randy for it, because I got out there a little ways and I kind of overdrove it, and Randy caught me passing. I saw what he was doing, and it took me about a half a race to figure out how to do what he was doing. From that point on, it was a rocket ship.
Well, and there you have it, Frank. We were talking about it. Some of these drivers are going to make that first run, make adjustments. Who does it the best? Jeff Chandler did. Jeff Chandler is the race winner. Do you have anything for him?
With how good you were able to maintain the tires here tonight, how difficult was it to try to hold on to those tires at the end of the run?
Honestly, it's the way the tire model is. There's really no conserving. I mean, you can conserve, but when I try to conserve, I just end up being farther behind. So you drive it. You drive your race. You don't even think about the tires. It's all about the line.
All about the line, indeed. Well, congratulations. You got the line right. You've won here at Auto Club Speedway. What do you expect going into Dover?
Well, unfortunately, I will miss that race and every other race from here on out because of my work schedule. I work 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. on like a swing shift. So my next three races will be Atlanta, Indy, and Pocono, which California, Indy, and Pocono are my three favorite tracks. So it worked out.
Well, if you can be a winner at those tracks, that might work out for you. Last thing before we let you go, anybody you would like to thank or talk about before we send you on the way to celebrate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My wife for giving me these couple hours to come in here and do this. She lets me race all I want to, pretty much. And, just my teammate, Jeff Winter, we work together so good. We've been sim racing together for almost 20 years.
Wow, that's a long time. Anyway, you heard it from a number 33 Ford driver, Jeff Chandler, tonight's race winner. Congratulations. Enjoy your night.
Thank you, and a shout-out to USRA. Let me tell you, it's the best league in iRacing. I love racing here. The guys are spectacular to race with. It's just awesome.
Absolutely. I could agree to that.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. Congratulations, bud.
Thank you, Frank.
All right, so we now go to our second place finisher here momentarily. That would be Ryan Jones, who will get a word with here right about now, as I believe we have Ryan Jones right now. Ryan, solid second place finish here tonight. I'm sure you would have wanted more, but that 33, man, he was quick.
Yeah, man. It's like I said last week. I knew it was going to be a fun race today. And, like I said, I love this track, and I'm happy to come home with the second place finish after making a few mistakes and keep having to pass cars to get up front. If I had just gotten a little bit of the taste of the lead, I felt like I could have had a good run for it. But with Jeff being able to pass Troy there early on that last run, I think he was able to kind of save up more on his tires and take it easy. And I'm having to weave my way through traffic, and it kind of slowed me up a bit. But all in all, man, I had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, you certainly had a good race. The first caution flag you had come in, or you were going to come in, when the caution came out. Were you concerned at all? Because it did look as though you were pretty close to that commitment cone, and with the way the rest of the race went out, that pretty much would have been curtains for the night for you. How close were you to hitting that commitment cone before you possibly got a penalty?
Oh yeah, it was really close, and I got to give a public apology to old Randy Bechtel. There, he's kind of like a non-corporate teammate and a good friend of mine, and I was trying to plan to get in front of him, come down low and pit, and him go on the outside, and I did not realize he was going to have that much momentum going into 3, and it allowed him to get kind of loose. I saw him getting loose in the back, and I didn't think the caution was going to come out. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm still going to pit. And then next thing you know, the caution came out, and I just immediately turned right as hard as I could, and was somehow able to manage getting around that cone and not getting a penalty. So that definitely would have cost me there a little bit there in that first run.
Yeah, that really did turn out to be the key to your night. You're at 2 second-place finishes in a row. Hopefully you won't make it 3 in a positive way when we go to Dover next week. What are your thoughts going to the Monster Mile next week?
Dover is another one of my favorites. It's really, really tough, especially when it's hot and slick. It's all about saving tires there, and if you can do that job the best, whoever does that job better than anyone else is going to win the race. I ended up finishing second there last season. And I definitely had the second best car then, but I'm looking to hopefully be the number 1 best coming into next week.
All right, anybody you want to thank before we let you go and celebrate your podium?
I got to thank Payday Racing for letting me kind of stick with them a little bit. Randy Bechtel being a part of that, and Chase Berry. They've always been good friends to me, and they kind of beat on me a little bit, but that's all right. I still have fun with them. And I got to thank you guys as always for putting on a hell of a show. I really appreciate you guys, and I enjoy watching the replays. And I got to thank Eric and Jeff for what they do at USRA. Man, we're really proud of what we've done this season, and we're looking forward to finishing the second half of it strong.
Well, you certainly have a lot to be proud of. This series has put on nothing but great racing all season long. Tonight, no different. Your second place finisher tonight, Ryan Jones. Congratulations.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, enjoying the night.
All right, so that is your second place finisher, one Mr. Ryan Jones. And we will now go to our third place finisher here tonight. John, you are with the driver of the number 29, Randy Bechtel.
Mr. Randy Bechtel, you led most of the first not the first half, but the first run of the race. Ended up having to check up hard with your buddy Ryan Jones. That caused you to spin, marred you back a lap down. You got a lap back, started 16th, and it just took you the rest of the cycles to work your way back up. And you did that, and you finished P3, exactly where you finished last week. How do you feel?
Could feel better. Yeah, I haven't seen the replay yet, but I think after I came out of that first pit stop, he came down and it just cut all the air to my nose. It felt like just trying to come back to the rest of the race. And I know there's a few guys that had a set of tires left. I was hoping it was going to go green because I had to waste a set by pitting early one time just to try to make up some ground, which I think it was the set right before the second caution. I was running second. I thought, oh, all right, I made up some ground there then, because I think Troy was leading when we started green flag stop, and he was like 7-8 seconds behind me. And I thought I was going to go good because my plan was to pit at lap 100 and go all out the last 20 laps, but had to take tires early on the last one and hoped it went green the rest of the way, and it did.
Yeah, it sure did. It worked out really good for you. P3 once again. Good job getting back through the field. Last question for you, and then I'll turn you over to Frank. What were the tires like over the course of the run? We heard from Jeff Chandler. What's your opinion? How hard did they become to drive? Was there a lot of pushing effect going into the corners? What do you think made the difference between the top 3 versus the rest of the field?
I know what I learned there last year is just taking it easy going in 1 and 2, you'll be way better. And I know a lot of people were getting on the throttle way earlier in the middle of the turns, and they were pushing up hard and wearing their right front a little bit harder. So I just knew if I could save it, it'd be good in the long run.
And you certainly showed that just like you did last week, finishing P3. Frank, do you have anything for Mr. Bechtel?
I certainly do. You now, with the poor finish from your title rival Evan Pienta, you have now taken over. Assume you have now taken over the points lead heading into a track like Dover next week. How much is that going to play into the way you race next week at the Monster Mile?
Oh, it's not going to change a lot. Well, I know there's going to be a lot more cautions there, so I have to be probably a little bit more patient than normal.
All right. And anyone you want to thank before we let you go and celebrate?
I like to thank my teammates, Chase, Aaron, who I'm not sure what happened. He can make it again tonight. Our boss man, Justin Wilson, who was adminning the race. I guess we could say thanks to Ryan, since he's an honorary teammate, even though he cut down in front of me. Eric and Jeff for putting on the race, and thank you guys for broadcasting.
All right. Thank you very much for putting on another great show tonight. Your third place finisher, Randy Bechtel. Congratulations.
Thank you guys.
All right, so there was your third place finisher, Randy Bechtel. That will conclude the interviews here for tonight. But what a fun night we had here tonight at Auto Club. A great race all the way through. Vegas pushed on the cautions tonight with only 2. Just another great show and what we've come to expect here with USRA.
Yeah, absolutely. We tend to expect less than 5 cautions, close racing, respectful racing, a couple mistakes here and there, but these guys are pros. I feel like if you want to call a league iRacing pros, this is going to be one of those leagues. They all respect each other. They drive hard. They're fast. They don't make many mistakes. The talent gap is very small. And that's why there's been so many first-time winners this season. I think as we're going into the second half, there's going to be more repeat winners, but that's just kind of nature of the beast, who's hot, who's not, and things like that. But outstanding race, a lot of fun, especially under the lights here at California, here at Auto Club Speedway.
Yep, 9 races, 8 unique winners so far this season. And with that, we will go to the final finishing results here tonight. We've heard from the top 3. Jeff Chandler gets his first win of the season. Ryan Jones, Randy Bechtel round out the podium. Jeff Pogo and Troy Torgerson round out the top 5. Thomas Ogle finishing 6th. Chris Brown comes home in 7th tonight. Jeff Winter will settle in the 8th position. Daniel Dill in 9th. Roy Lehmans, who we saw battling up front so hard throughout that final run, ends up coming home in 10th. Stephen Holmes finishing 11th. Jamie Leach in 12th. And Justin Winters in 13th position.
Robert Dudley brings it home 14th. Eric Hawley 15th. Evan Pienta, he was up front. He was in the back. He was up front. Had that unfortunate drifting moment with, oh man, it was that. I can't remember the other vehicle that had Hagedorn. Thank you. The drift moment, which put him back in the field again. Rough night, finishes P16, loses the points lead. He's still P2 in the point standing. It's not the night he wanted. Not devastating, but not the night he wanted. Behind him is his drift partner, Jared Hagedorn, in 17th. Tommy Cannon finishes 18th, and now we get into the drivers who I believe retired. Larry Pauling finishes 19th, and then the retiring drivers, Chase Berry comes home 20th. Matthew McMeekin, after the hard hit, 21st. Alex Huffman took damage on early and decided that it couldn't be remedied and that it wasn't going to be good. A good evening for him. Retired, finishing P22. Mike Mock left rather early, finished 23rd. And then Zach Calloway, I believe, was race control tonight, 24th. Or that was the driver who did not start.
Yeah, missed the start. of tonight's race. So we thank you very much for making us a part of your evening here for the Esports Broadcasting Network. Tomorrow night, it'll be myself and Nate Siefker in the booth for the iRacing East Super Speedway Series at Talladega. That broadcast starting at 8:20. Then on Tuesday night, we have a little bit of a break. Going into Tuesday night, it will be the Western States Racing League with at Richmond on Tuesday evening. On Thursday night, we'll be back here with the USRA Series at Dover for round number 10 of their season, and also the Dirty Old Bastards 410 Sprint Car Series will make its debut an hour after this race starts here next Thursday night. They will be at Volusia Speedway Park. So for my broadcast partner tonight, Jonathan Leach, my name is Frank Marchese. We thank you very much for making us a part of your evening, and we will see you next week from Dover.